Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Swallowed Star 2 Land of Origin Part 1:16 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. Khafu's palms were like mountains, blocking the first strike. The momentum of the first strike was too terrifying, crushing his palms and slashing across his entire body. The might was so overwhelmingly heavy, and although it was weakened by the battle armor, still 70 to 80% of the force spread throughout his entire body, causing the powerful body of Khafu to tremble as countless cracks appeared. Hum. Khafu couldn't help but let out a low hum, with eyes becoming more fervent. At the same time, the second strike arrived. The dazzling second strike was completely different in style from the first. This strike carried the force of all things can be cut, penetrating the battle armor, and slicing into Khafu's body. In an instant, Khafu's body was cut into dozens of pieces, as if shattered porcelain pieced together. Wonderful! Even while fragmented into dozens of pieces, Khafu praised with surprise. Boom! The third strike followed. The third strike surged like a river, continuous and unending. After being weakened by the battle armor and transmitted into Khafu's body, it also stirred the forces of the first two strikes that were entrenched inside Khafu. The third strike triggered the power of the first two strikes, and all the power completely erupted in an instant. Bam! Khafu's powerful physical body exploded into a vast blood mist. However, the massive blood mist quickly condensed within the white battle armor, coalescing back into Khafu's form. Yet at this moment, Khafu's body energy reserve was depleted to only 20%. But he was continuously absorbing the power of destruction from the destruction world, and his energy reserve was rapidly climbing. 3 strikes, deplete 80% of my body's energy. Khafu laughed heartily. Across the endless primordial space, only Shoju could achieve this before. Shoju and Starlight are acknowledged as the two most powerful entities, yet the two have entirely different styles. Starlight excels at manipulating time and space, can observe the past and future, and calculates every possibility, mastering prolonged battles, hunting down every ounce of the enemy's power. Shoju represents destruction. Destruction. And destruction again. The lethal techniques she comprehended from the mysterious land, Tong Valley, have made many ancient beings fear her. Despite demon ruins having extremity in destructive power, its techniques are too cumbersome, needing close proximity and the tip of a bizarre cube to unleash the unbelievable destructive force. Ancestors and lords, unless they are foolish, can easily evade it. But some of Shoju's destructive techniques are unavoidable. This is why Shoju is on the 27th level while Demon Ruins is on the 22nd level. 3 strikes, capable of depleting 80% of Khafu's body. If hacked at me, wouldn't I be finished? Cannot take it head-on, absolutely cannot take it head-on. Judging by battling Khafu for more than one epoch, Luo Feng's strikes are hard to dodge. How is Lord Luo Feng's power this formidable? The ancient beings, their eyes piercing through space-time barriers, witnessed this battle. But this battle made them feel dread. Over 90% of ancient beings are judged, faced with Luo Feng, one can only flee. Absolutely must not engage in face-to-face combat. Engage head-on? Khafu is the example. Khafu has top 10 level power and battle armor, his physical body also considered formidable. Yet, 3 strikes resulted like this. I've heard that the hardest path to becoming a lord from the cultivator camp is break laws with force. The infinite snake ancestor, coiled with a body occupying most of the destruction world, gazed at Luo Feng. As the chief of the innate primordial camp, naturally gathering boundless information on the cultivator camp, the few paths for cultivators to breaking out of the cage are no secrets, easily known by the infinite snake ancestor. Starlight breaks laws with force, and Luo Feng does the same. Starlight's power matches Shoju. Moreover, can observe past and future, nearly observing every possible future. Facing him, I am already quite troubled. Luo Feng has newly become a lord, yet he is already on par with Starlight and Shoju. The infinite snake ancestor, naturally with detailed evaluation criteria for other ancestors and lords, after witnessing this battle, has already determined. Luo Feng, Starlight, Shoju, are at the same level, representing the pinnacle battle strength of the entire infinite primordial space. I may be capable of suppressing Kafue, but no matter how long the combat is, I cannot destroy 80% of his body. The infinite snake ancestor sighed internally. This is an entirely transcendent destructive power. The leader of another great camp, the Ice Peak camp, also meticulously watched this battle, remembering every exchange between Luo Feng and Kafue clearly, even analyzing countless times. This Luo Feng, his destructive force is stronger than mine. The Ice Peak ancestor admitted internally. If the difference were minor, there might be some refusal to concede. Yet the disparity was too evident. There's no point in comparison anymore. He ranks equally as Sister Shoju. The Ice Peak ancestor's eyes showed unwillingness. His influence and prestige mainly derived from Shoju. Shoju steadfastly supported him, advancing and retreating together. His command in the Ice Peak camp far surpassed the influence of the infinite snake ancestor in the innate primordial camp. Know that within the innate primordial camp, there are the 9 emperors, nominally equal. The infinite snake ancestor needs to ally with many ancestors to have such influence. Even so, the factions of the giant god emperor still pay little heed to the infinite snake ancestor. But in the Ice Peak camp, the entire camp is named after Ice Peak. Nominally, he is the absolute leader. In fact, besides the Pu Cheng ancestor, all other ancestors in the camp dare not truly oppose the Ice Peak ancestor. I really look forward to confronting Luo Feng. An unusual cube was extremely excited at this moment, as he loved all adventures and the thrill of facing powerful opponents. The destructive power is comparable to mine. The woman in grey stood on the deepest 27th level, a fighting spirit arising in her eyes. In the vast endless primordial space, there were very few who could tempt her to make a move. She had fought against starlight before, yet couldn't even touch it, making such battles meaningless. Shoju preferred this, the extreme destructive power of both sides clashing. She was eager to see who would ultimately be stronger. Brother Luo Feng, do you need this level of destruction world? Kafue asked eagerly. For him, a thrilling battle was far more valuable than just one layer of a destruction world. No need. Luo Feng shook his head. Kafue, have the world envoys attack me with all their might. Occupy a destruction world? From the 23rd to the 25th level, they were unclaimed. Taking over a layer wasn't difficult. It was possible that he might push further into the 28th and 29th levels. Naturally, he wouldn't require the layer offered by Kafue. All right. Kafue nodded, and with a thought, he commanded 230 world envoys to attack together. These world envoys resembled plant life, with a multitude of branches like arms. This power of destruction. Luo Feng stood there, beginning to feel the attacks from the world envoys on his body, revealing a joyful expression, could be called the power of life severing, composed of 7 parts destruction and 3 parts life. This layer's power of destruction greatly benefited him. It was the second type of power of destruction he had encountered, where life and destruction fused, while adventuring in the abyss of destruction. Luo Feng was immersed in cultivation, yet his battle with Kafue stirred massive waves in the endless primordial space, affecting more and more factions. The innate primordial camp occupied more than half of the endless primordial space's territory. Many regions had no source world, yet still many low-level primordial life and high-level primordial life thrived and reproduced, for devouring the source world origin bore a threshold, requiring at least a world-level primordial life. The growing low-level primordial life and high-level primordial life required fewer resources to develop. In such a remote region, one of them was under the command of the Water Foolish Ancestor. Water Foolish Ancestor sheltered his own tribe, along with numerous weaker tribes who also were under his protection. He didn't wish to join any conflict. However, his strength, even at the ancestor level, was too weak, making it necessary to align with a powerful camp for the survival of the tribe. Thus, he allied with the innate primordial camp and selected the relatively peace-loving giant god emperor faction. Not every ancestor loves war. They join a major camp solely for better survival opportunities for their tribe. If one roams freely with no ties, an ancestor can live lavishly, residing anywhere or concealing their life core in hard-to-find places. However, for large tribe responsibilities, one has to be either strong enough to defy any other force, or join a great power for their protection. By joining the innate primordial camp, Water Foolish Ancestor enabled his entire tribe to reproduce peacefully. No one dared to threaten an ancestor of the innate primordial camp recklessly, as that'd mean challenging the whole camp. Indeed, he was a staunch supporter of the giant God Emperor faction, receiving its protection. But, of course, when a critical moment arrived, previous engagements of his faction required his participation. It's truly terrifying, even more so than the previous wars between the two major camps. Water Foolish Ancestor gazed into the abyss of destruction, having witnessed the battle between Luo Feng and Kafu. The abyss of destruction was where the strongest entities of the endless primordial space resided. Water Foolish Ancestor feared that he couldn't step into even the first level without being blasted out by Ba Wei Yu. Although Ba Wei Yu maintained a low profile in front of Luo Feng, he was ultimately ranked among the top 30 beings, and someone like Water Foolish Ancestor, an ordinary ancestor, stood little chance in his presence. To face one of the top 10 like Kafu, a figure I can only look up to, and have most of his body destroyed in just 3 strikes. Water Foolish Ancestor marveled, this Lord Luo Feng is probably at the very pinnacle within the endless primordial space. Facing such an existence, I must flee immediately, unable to withstand directly. The weaker the frontal combat strength of an ancestor, typically the stronger they are at self-preservation. After all, they possess at least one highest level power. In their area of expertise, their brilliance shines. There were too many watching ancestors, even if a few hadn't seen it firsthand, they were quickly given combat footage from their friends, allowing them to clearly witness the entire struggle between Luo Feng and Kafu. These ancient beings mostly had no qualification to contend for the first level of the abyss of destruction, yet they possessed certain observation secret techniques allowing some degree of judgment. They could all discern Lord Luo Feng's approximate level. Any contact would mean fleeing. Unable to confront head-on. Marvelous. Lord Mo Man was overjoyed, no wonder they used power-breaking technique, his strength rapidly surpassed ours. He's already stronger than me. Jin remarked from the 13th level, watching Luo Feng cultivating on the 16th level. Even so, Jin disliked Luo Feng's strategy of managing the territory. Luo Feng sought to eliminate any chances for tribulation cultivators, believing that one tribulation cultivator viewing all creatures of the source world as resources to cycle through realms, monopolizing the entire source world, severing all weak hopes was unacceptable. Luo Feng, considering the countless weak, believed that hopeless severing tribulation cultivators shouldn't exist. Jin, however, greatly admired tribulation cultivators, thinking of them as the elite, forged through countless lives. He himself followed this path. With differences in Tao, they couldn't work in unity. Jin was willing to occasionally join forces with Luo Feng for the camp's overall interest but preferred keeping his distance otherwise. Just because you're stronger doesn't mean you're right. Both Nai Jiyu and I are tribulation cultivators, perhaps a third or fourth tribulation cultivator might emerge in the future. Jin contemplated. On the 17th layer of the abyss of destruction, Feather Emperor stood there, calmly watching the scarlet-robed figure descending from above. Lord Luo Feng. Feather Emperor looked at him. Feather Emperor. Luo Feng also observed him. Each of those ranked in the top 10 had their own methods. Kafu was proficient in face-to-face combat, similar to Luo Feng, and was completely dominated in their most adept area. But Feather Emperor's style was entirely different. I know you want the World Envoy to assist in your cultivation. Feather Emperor looked coldly at Luo Feng. Defeat me, and I can arrange for the World Envoy to cooperate with you. Having once been besieged jointly by Mo Man, Jin, and Nai Jiyu, he was extremely embarrassed that time, naturally harboring some resentment towards other lords in the cultivator camp. Please. Luo Feng said politely. This battle was not a malicious fight for this layer of destruction world, but rather a contest between the two. Feather Emperor did not call upon the World Envoy for assistance. Boom! Feather Emperor stood there, suddenly radiating endless light, shining throughout this layer of destruction world. Luo Feng was also illuminated by this light, feeling that light transform into countless threads, entwining and suppressing him. Feather Emperor's large-scale domain was extremely terrifying, combining the power of feather and light, with the support of the mysterious land feather realm. This domain's might was enough to halve the strength of a normal ancestor. Boom! Luo Feng moved, transforming into a blade light, instantly tearing through all luminous obstructions, passing by Feather Emperor as if he had completely sliced him apart. Feather Emperor seemed to remain in his original place but appeared in another location, unharmed. In terms of movement technique, he was omnipresent, on the same level as the infinite ancestor. Even with the added power of Blood Crane territory, Luo Feng couldn't touch Feather Emperor in the slightest. His movement breaks through the time limit. Luo Feng frowned. The so-called omnipresence refers to the same time point, being able to exist at any of numerous positions. Position changes entirely by heart. The infinite ancestor, back then, was able to save many ancestors during the wars between the two camps, despite the temporal suppression of starlight. Only this move left. Luo Feng instantly unleashed his saber. He swung the sky-splitting saber in his hand, and countless blade lights followed the life lock to strike out. In a moment, thousands of blade lights cleaved out, traversing through space and time, locking onto all Feather Emperor's energy around. Every light was slaughtered by these blade lights. Luo Feng continued to unleash truly terrifying, highly condensed blade lights. In just 2 or 3 moments, the entire destruction world simultaneously existed with more than 100,000 massive blade lights. These huge blade lights occupied 1/3 of the destruction world area, and chased from above and below. Luo Feng's primordial blade path ultimately wasn't perfected, but under the cooperation of the primordial life and death Dao's life lock, each blade's energy wasn't strong. To know, when dealing with Kafu, a single blade contained 1/10 of the energy reserves. Yet maintaining the life lock, the blade light's power was far weaker, though equivalent to some ordinary techniques of Mo Man and Jin. The key was that Luo Feng unleashed too many blade lights. Too much quantity. Luo Feng was entirely using sheer force to overpower. His energy reserves were enormous, and the energy reserves recovered in each moment were slightly more than the total energy reserves of Feather Emperor's entire body. No need to continue. Feather Emperor looked at the densely packed blade lights across the sky, each enormous and full of spirituality, destroying all light. If he didn't release his domain, it would lock onto his true body, and he spoke, "Did not expect I couldn't evade Lord Luo Feng's blade." In the abyss of destruction, with a continuous supply of energy, he could compete with Luo Feng. But outside, he would have to flee within 10 moments. If Feather Emperor wants to escape, it's just a thought to flee from my blade technique range. Luo Feng also understood his problem. His blade light chase had a range. Feather Emperor, infinite ancestor, they could cross many spaces in one step, eluding Luo Feng. Yes, only escape. Feather Emperor gently shook his head. Naijiu, Mo Man, and Jin teamed up to besiege him. But Luo Feng alone forced him to only escape. "I'll arrange for the plane envoy to besiege you." Feather Emperor immediately thought, summoning 200 world envoys from this layer of destruction world to jointly besiege Luo Feng. At this moment, on the 18th layer, the infinite ancestor also watched the entire battle clearly. "I'm slightly stronger than Feather Emperor, but facing Luo Feng's pursuit with tens of thousands of blade lights, I still can't break it." Infinite ancestor was quite troubled. In the destruction world, he had energy supplementation to endure, but he was well aware that everyone compared in normal combat environments. Truly going all out, Luo Feng could easily ignore them, break through all obstructions, and imprint a mark on the shadow of origin to control a layer of destruction world. No matter how well they stealth, they couldn't stop Luo Feng from slicing off 80% of Kafu's body in 3 cuts. It's only that Luo Feng wasn't interested in seizing the destruction world, enabling a friendly competition. How to break it? Infinite Ancestor began to ponder deeply. However, over 1 epoch later, Luo Feng arrived at the 18th layer. A match between both sides. Infinite Ancestor still lost? His style was the same as Feather Emperor, the only advantage being his infinite power. The outburst was stronger, but Luo Feng could withstand the siege of dozens of ancestors with his formidable physique, now enhanced by the power of Blood Crane territory. The infinite ancestor's attack couldn't affect Luo Feng at all. Luo Feng's blade lights filled the sky. Life Lock chased all Infinite Ancestor's energy. Infinite Ancestor simply conceded. Various forces and many ancient beings closely watched Luo Feng's series of battles. Luo Feng consecutively defeated Feather Emperor and Infinite Ancestor, which was also within their expectations. After all, in their hearts, they had already regarded Lord Luo Feng as the highest level of combat power. On the 19th layer of the Abyss of Destruction, Luo Feng arrived here. Luo Feng. Yuan grinned widely, smiling happily. He had led the entire camp to reach today's status from its weakest period in the cultivator camp. He had experienced too many frustrations, suffered much hardship. Having another lord of highest combat power level in the camp, Yuan couldn't be happier. The stronger the lord, the brighter the future for his own camp. Incredible, Kafu, Feather Emperor, Infinite Ancestor, you can all defeat them directly, Yuan laughed. Even I am not confident in defeating that Infinite Ancestor. The Infinite Ancestor is omnipresent, now I can only deplete his energy reserves. Luo Feng understood this well. He only mastered one supreme level of destruction power, and with Life Lock in cooperation, the strength he could exert was limited. If he had a complete primordial blade path, in conjunction with the primordial life and death Tao, his techniques would be much more. How long have you been a lord? You're already quite formidable, Yuan laughed. Should I arrange for world envoys to besiege you now? Thank you, elder brother, Luo Feng nodded. Soon, a total of 150 world envoys appeared on this level and began to besiege Luo Feng. Luo Feng once again started to meticulously experience this latest kind of destruction power, sensing the mysteries of destruction within it. Although the 19 supreme levels of destruction power he has sensed to date mostly do not integrate the mysteries of life, he believed that insights can be gained from all aspects. Luo Feng's exploration of the mysteries of destruction still enhanced his accumulation in terms of destruction. Luo Feng felt that his choice was correct. The bottleneck encountered in comprehending the primordial blade path can be overcome by increasing destruction aspect accumulation in the Abyss of Destruction, which is indeed efficient. I can feel it, my accumulation in the aspect of destruction should be sufficient. Luo Feng had this judgment in the midst of it. No rush, accumulation can never be too much. Each level of the destruction world only consumes 1 or 2 eras of time. First, finish traversing the Abyss of Destruction. Luo Feng was in no hurry to leave the Abyss of Destruction. He could explore it fully before returning to the cultivated territory. It's strange to say, I've already reached the 19th level yet encountered no opportunity. This thought flashed through Luo Feng's mind, but he didn't dwell on it. Unlike other existences who confidently explore, when he reaches each level, it's primarily to confront world envoys. Naturally, the probability of encountering opportunities is much lower. Regardless, the main purpose of coming to the Abyss of Destruction has been achieved. Accumulation is sufficient. The next step is to integrate all accumulations and insights into one. Moreover, heart and Tao harmony is required, perfectly merging one's mind into the Tao to achieve the primordial blade path. Integration into one, heart and Tao harmony. These are the next 2 major hurdles. Before coming to the Abyss of Destruction, Luo Feng wasn't clear about the obstacles on the path to the primordial blade path. But now, he can definitively identify there are only these 2 remaining barriers. Elder brother, withdraw these world envoys, please. After more than 1 epoch had passed, Luo Feng said. Yuan immediately withdrew them with a thought, laughing, ready to go to the next level. I'll first retreat and train for a while on this level, Luo Feng said. He felt he had accumulated enough, and he would first attempt to integrate his insights into one. Even if he failed, he could go to the 20th and subsequent levels to continue accumulating and then try again. Different accumulations will lead to different insights when attempting to integrate into one. Yuan joyfully watched Luo Feng construct a cave mansion and begin his retreat and cultivation. I will also continue my cultivation. Yuan immediately returned to his cave mansion and became completely immersed, as he too was comprehending the origin system of the primordial rule operation path. Not coming to the 20th level. 1Mountain Master was in the 20th level, ready for Luo Feng's challenge, but Luo Feng, who had stayed on the 19th level for more than one epoch, then withdrew the world envoys and began retreating. This made the Ice Mountain Master sigh with relief, because he knows he is no match for Luo Feng. But as the leader of the Ice Peak camp, he was reluctant to let Luo Feng step on him to achieve fame, yet he could not prevent it from happening. He had thought of different ways to maintain his dignity even in failure. Yet, when he was fully prepared mentally, Luo Feng didn't come for now. In the 19th level cave mansion, Luo Feng retreated for cultivation. Facing those world envoys was easy for him. He casually made moves, sometimes even facing them head-on. Yet, at this moment, trying to integrate insights into one to fully form the primordial blade path required him to experiment with powerful techniques repeatedly. Boom! With a casual flick of his finger, sharp blade light tore through the heavens and the earth. With a frown, lightly grasping with 5 fingers, 5 terrifying blade lights descended, forming a blade formation that annihilated all enemies within. In this process of thinking, integrating, and attempting, the primordial blade path became increasingly clear in Luo Feng's heart. Luo Feng lightly tapped with a finger. A point of blade light instantly pierced through the space-time obstruction of the entire 19th level destruction world, even penetrating down to the 20th level, startling the Ice Mountain Master. Suddenly, a time-space fluctuation occurred, which swept over Luo Feng, causing the cross-legged sitting Luo Feng to disappear. The master of the 19th level, Yuan, was taken aback. Suddenly a time-space fluctuation, and Luo Feng disappeared. Luo Feng, what's going on? Yuan immediately contacted Luo Feng's other avatars. I should have encountered an opportunity, Luo Feng replied. An opportunity? Yuan was stunned. He recalled that long ago, Kafu also encountered an opportunity during the exploration of the 19th level destruction world, entering a hidden spacetime and obtaining that battle armor that accompanied him for endless ages. Kafu and Luo Feng both passed through here, stayed for a short time, and got opportunities. I've been residing here forever and even controlling this level. Why haven't I ever encountered an opportunity? Yuan felt somewhat bitter at this moment. Countless layers of time and space intertwine, sheltering the core. Additionally, an immense vortex of destruction power forms, surrounding that core, twisting and shattering time and space. The closer you get to the core, the smaller and more concentrated time and space become, and once caught, it's easy to get completely lost. Luo Feng is currently being swept by a ripple of time and space, aimed at the core. Luo Feng, what's happening? Yuan is currently contacting Luo Feng's other avatars. Luo Feng gazes in awe at the distant core. This isolated time-space cuts off all connection with the outside. All time-space detection methods, life-chi mechanism detection methods, causality detection methods, cannot detect this place. I think I've encountered an opportunity. Luo Feng responds, then carefully observes the core. The surrounding vast vortex of destruction power contains countless mysteries, with destruction as the main essence, and life, matter, water, fire, wind, thunder, causality, darkness, earth, time, space, force, and other mysteries also integrated, ultimately forming an overwhelming and irresistible power of destruction. What a terrifying power of destruction, even my body would be annihilated in just a few moments. Luo Feng briefly senses it and makes a judgment. Perhaps in the entire endless primordial space, only the initial stands a chance to withstand this terrifying power of destruction. But the initial cannot even reach here. It can't even hold the first layer of the abyss of destruction. Luo Feng is swept by time-space ripples, and the destructive power naturally avoids him, not harming him at all. Even though the layers folded time-space would take starlight ages to decipher, Luo Feng is carried, continually approaching the core. I see it now. Luo Feng finally sees, amidst the overwhelming destruction power, barely visible, a mountain. This mountain seems to be the source of all destruction, even his sky-splitting saber trembles slightly. So many weapons. Luo Feng vaguely sees various weapons stuck into the mountain of destruction, swords, spears, axes, and many other forms of weapons. Countless destructive weapons are just a part of this mountain. Occasionally obtained destruction weapons when exploring the abyss of destruction should be nourished here. Luo Feng speculates. Whoosh! Under the sweep of time-space ripples, Luo Feng gets closer and closer to the mountain of destruction. Boom! When he finally flies out of the vortex of destruction power, the mountain of destruction appears clearly in front of him. The mountain itself is pitch black, with thick black mist flowing over its body. The weapons it nurtures emit some gloss, and most conspicuous are clusters of light, a total of 34 clusters on the mountain of destruction, like 34 stars in the dark. Their lights converge and flow, resembling the veins of the mountain of destruction. The third ultimate life form to arrive at the mountain of destruction, if you can pass the 7 trials, you can control the abyss of destruction. Luo Feng, upon reaching the outermost part of the mountain of destruction, receives a message. Luo Feng is slightly surprised, eyes shimmering. Pass the 7 trials, and you can control the abyss of destruction. The entire endless primordial space doesn't know the origin core of the mysterious land abyss of destruction, nor how to control it. Unexpectedly, as soon as he arrived here, he learned this secret. Besides me, 2 other ultimate life forms also know this secret. Luo Feng thinks. Kafu once encountered an opportunity in the 19th layer of the abyss of destruction and obtained that piece of battle armor. Other strong figures who explored the abyss of destruction have occasionally encountered opportunities, but never obtained anything too precious. Only Kafu obtained something truly precious, which is known to the outside world. If Kafu has been here, it means there has been another strong figure here too. Luo Feng looks at the mountain of destruction in front of him. If Kafu hasn't been here, then who are the other 2 ultimate life forms? The other 7 lords of my cultivator camp might not have been here. Luo Feng thinks. Regarding the information on the abyss of destruction, the 7 lords have shared their records, but none have recorded this place. Either they haven't been here, or they've been here and kept it a secret. Starlight isn't one to be so petty. If he hasn't recorded here, he probably hasn't been. Luo Feng vaguely understands, strength alone doesn't ensure entry to this place. To come here, there must be some screening threshold. Counting himself, only 3 have been screened. Let's get a closer look. Luo Feng is quite curious about the 34 clusters of light on the mountain of destruction and immediately flies over. At the foot of the mountain of destruction lies a vast land. As Luo Feng flies closer, the sense of invisible suppression grows stronger, and eventually, he has to land. Like the mysterious land of eternity, where suppression is generally very strong throughout the vast area, the suppression within this hidden time-space of the mountain of destruction in the abyss of destruction is much smaller and grows stronger the closer you get. Even the weaker ancestors will be pinned down, unable to advance. Luo Feng walks forward, his speed is extremely fast, and he also sees a mountain path. The 34 clusters of light on the mountain of destruction converge into veins, naturally shaping into a path that leads directly from the foot to the top of the mountain. With my strength, being suppressed means I cannot fly. Therefore, to reach the top of the mountain of destruction, one should only be able to go via the path. Luo Feng speculates, but of course, this is only speculation. Luo Feng looked ahead. At the foot of the mountain, there were 7 sculptures. The first sculpture was a massive bird of prey. The material of the sculpture was the same as the mountain of destruction, both made of black matter. The second sculpture was a 9-headed giant snake, closely resembling the infinite great serpent, clan. The third sculpture was a misty form with an eye on its surface. It was very similar to the undying hermit. The fourth sculpture was a large cube, but this cube was made up of 125 smaller cubes. The fifth sculpture was a black star. The sixth sculpture was a black mountain, very similar to the mountain of destruction. The seventh sculpture was actually a miniature abyss of destruction. Within this miniature abyss, each layer had smaller sculptures, and Luo Feng could recognize them as Ba Wei Yu, primordial beast ancestor. Wulan, Jin, Ming Huang, Mo Man. Mogus, Feather Emperor, Kafu, Infinite Ancestor, Yuan, Ice Peak Ancestor. Starlight, Shouju. In history, those who have once controlled a layer of destruction world, besides me, are all included in the seventh sculpture. Luo Feng was shocked in his heart. Information came through. Luo Feng immediately understood, these 7 sculptures were the 7 trials. According to the sequence, only by defeating the weaker sculptures could one qualify to challenge the stronger ones. Once all 7 sculptures are defeated, one could control the entire abyss of destruction. Luo Feng walked towards these sculptures. Boom! As Luo Feng approached a certain distance, the bird of prey sculpture suddenly erupted in terrible flames. Its eyes lit up, and its head tilted slightly, scrutinizing Luo Feng. The endless flames from the bird of prey sculpture rushed in all directions, also impacting Luo Feng's body surface. Luo Feng's blood-red robe flapped fiercely, and a protective energy layer on its surface resisted these erosive impacts. The bird of prey sculpture grinned. Bang! The bird of prey sculpture was already upon Luo Feng, its movement resembling Feather Emperor and Infinite Ancestor omnipresent. So even though Luo Feng had the power of the Blood Crane territory as an enhancement, he couldn't avoid this pounce. The wings of this bird of prey sculpture, like a giant sharp blade, slashed onto Luo Feng's blood-red robe. The protective energy layer was torn apart, the blood-red robe shook, and Luo Feng's body slightly trembled, stepping back a pace. His retreating step caused the ground to tremble violently, creating numerous cracks. Immediately following, the giant claws of the bird of prey sculpture appeared out of thin air, already grasping towards Luo Feng's chest. Luo Feng extended a hand and caught this fierce claw. The fiery bird of prey struggled fiercely but couldn't break free. From within Luo Feng, 10,800,000,000 units of origin energy erupted, with one hand grabbing the fiery bird of prey, hurling it fiercely against the ground. Boom! Luo Feng smashed it into the ground with a single hand, but at the instant of smashing the ground, the bird of prey sculpture dispersed into endless flames. Yet again, a giant bird's head appeared in front of Luo Feng, spewing terrifying 5-colored flames, scorching Luo Feng's body. Luo Feng endured the 5-colored flames, taking a step, his silhouette transforming into blade light, slashing through the bird's head. The confrontation was extremely rapid. The bird of prey sculpture gathered and dispersed unpredictably, omnipresent. The flames fierce and violent, the body immensely powerful. This bird of prey sculpture, although its techniques are clumsy, its power is extremely strong. Comprehensively, it ranks within the top 20 in endless primordial space. Luo Feng judged, comparable to the Infinite Ancestor, before breaking through. And this is only the first sculpture? In the brief exchange, each time Luo Feng cleaved open the flaming sculpture's body, he also identified the location of this bird of prey sculpture's energy core. As the bird of prey sculpture reconverged. Slash! Luo Feng stretched out his hand, 5 fingers instantly emitting 5 dazzling blade lights. 5 beams of blade light descended majestically, forming a terrifying formation. The blade formation completely enveloped the area of the flaming bird of prey, and within it, the blade light tore through, finally reaching the core within the flaming bird of prey. At the moment of contact, the flaming bird of prey completely dissipated. Flames gathered not far away, reforming into the original bird of prey sculpture. Motionless. Luo Feng's scattered blade light was naturally absorbed by the ground beneath, forming a trace that Luo Feng also understood. Just like a seat in the land of eternity, after leaving a trace, he can directly transform and descend next time, without painstakingly traveling over. The Mountain of Destruction is similar. Passing the test of the first sculpture grants one the qualification to leave a trace, allowing direct descent in the future. As his own trace merged into the ground beneath, Luo Feng also felt as if the majestic Mountain of Destruction before him became much more intimate, and the originally intangible rule obstacles completely dissipated. The 34 glows on the Mountain of Destruction, now without rule obstacles, also became incredibly clear. These 34 glows, in their true form, are like clusters outlined by 34 types of highest-level secret patterns of the power of destruction. In history, those who have once controlled a layer of destruction world, besides me, are all included in the 7th sculpture. Luo Feng was shocked in his heart. Information came through. Luo Feng immediately understood, these 7 sculptures were the 7 trials. According to the sequence, only by defeating the weaker sculptures could one qualify to challenge the stronger ones. Once all 7 sculptures are defeated, one could control the entire abyss of destruction. Luo Feng walked towards these sculptures. Boom! As Luo Feng approached a certain distance, the bird of prey sculpture suddenly erupted in terrible flames. Its eyes lit up, and its head tilted slightly, scrutinizing Luo Feng. The endless flames from the bird of prey sculpture rushed in all directions, also impacting Luo Feng's body surface. Luo Feng's blood-red robe flapped fiercely, and a protective energy layer on its surface resisted these erosive impacts. The bird of prey sculpture grinned. Bang! The bird of prey sculpture was already upon Luo Feng, its movement resembling Feather Emperor and Infinite Ancestor, omnipresent. So even though Luo Feng had the power of the Blood Crane territory as an enhancement, he couldn't avoid this pounce. The wings of this bird of prey sculpture, like a giant sharp blade, slashed onto Luo Feng's blood-red robe. The protective energy layer was torn apart, the blood-red robe shook, and Luo Feng's body slightly trembled, stepping back a pace. His retreating step caused the ground to tremble violently, creating numerous cracks. Immediately following, the giant claws of the bird of prey sculpture appeared out of thin air, already grasping towards Luo Feng's chest. Luo Feng extended a hand and caught this fierce claw. The fiery bird of prey struggled fiercely but couldn't break free. From within Luo Feng, 10,800,000,000 units of origin energy erupted, with one hand grabbing the fiery bird of prey, hurling it fiercely against the ground. Boom! Luo Feng smashed it into the ground with a single hand, but at the instant of smashing the ground, the bird of prey sculpture dispersed into endless flames. Yet again, a giant bird's head appeared in front of Luo Feng, spewing terrifying five-colored flames, scorching Luo Feng's body. Luo Feng endured the five-colored flames, taking a step, his silhouette transforming into blade light, slashing through the bird's head. The confrontation was extremely rapid. The bird of prey sculpture gathered and dispersed unpredictably, omnipresent. The flames fierce and violent, the body immensely powerful. This bird of prey sculpture, although its techniques are clumsy, its power is extremely strong. Comprehensively, it ranks within the top 20 in endless primordial space. Luo Feng judged, comparable to the Infinite Ancestor, before breaking through. And this is only the first sculpture? In the brief exchange, each time Luo Feng cleaved open the flaming sculpture's body, he also identified the location of this bird of prey sculpture's energy core. As the bird of prey sculpture reconverged. Slash! Luo Feng stretched out his hand, 5 fingers instantly emitting 5 dazzling blade lights. 5 beams of blade light descended majestically, forming a terrifying formation. The blade formation completely enveloped the area of the flaming bird of prey, and within it, the blade light tore through, finally reaching the core within the flaming bird of prey. At the moment of contact, the flaming bird of prey completely dissipated. Flames gathered not far away, reforming into the original bird of prey sculpture. Motionless. Luo Feng's scattered blade light was naturally absorbed by the ground beneath, forming a trace that Luo Feng also understood. Just like a seat in the land of eternity, after leaving a trace, he can directly transform and descend next time, without painstakingly traveling over. The Mountain of Destruction is similar. Passing the test of the first sculpture grants one the qualification to leave a trace, allowing direct descent in the future. As his own trace merged into the ground beneath, Luo Feng also felt as if the majestic Mountain of Destruction before him became much more intimate, and the originally intangible rule obstacles completely dissipated. The 34 glows on the Mountain of Destruction, now without rule obstacles, also became incredibly clear. These 34 glows, in their true form, are like clusters outlined by 34 types of highest-level secret patterns of the power of destruction. The essence of the 34 forces of destruction is right in front of you. Luo Feng observed carefully. The biggest purpose of coming to the abyss of destruction was to accumulate insights on the destruction path. Previously, he personally felt the encirclement of the world envoys, pondering the mysteries of destructive forces himself. But his own speculations were not necessarily perfect. Unlike now, all mysteries are fully displayed before his eyes. Although he has accumulated enough mysteries of the destruction path to reach the threshold of creating the primordial blade path, the deeper the accumulation, the smoother the path to create the primordial blade path. These 34 light clusters each contains all the mysteries of one type of destructive force. Luo Feng was somewhat surprised. Moreover, they include the destructive forces from layers 1 to 19 of the Abyss of Destruction. Could the entire Abyss of Destruction consist of exactly 34 layers? Luo Feng couldn't help but speculate, but he didn't care too much about it. His thoughts were more focused on these mysteries. Luo Feng sat cross-legged, patiently observing and comprehending. In the blink of an eye, 30 eras passed, and Luo Feng had grasped all those destructive mysteries in his heart. These veins. Luo Feng noticed the glow of 34 light clusters intersecting, forming veins throughout the Mountain of Destruction. These veins integrate the mysteries of 34 types of destructive forces, perfectly unified. At this moment, Luo Feng thought of the primordial's life core. The life core is formed by one mystery as the main and multiple mysteries as the complementary ones, forming a complete whole. Is this more like a life core path in the direction of destruction? Luo Feng vaguely sensed, with destruction as the main, compatible with multiple mysteries in the life core. Following the guidance of the Mountain of Destruction, theoretically one can explore 34 types of destructive forces and perfectly integrate them into a whole. Of course, this is the most perfect situation. This path is only suitable for ancestors, not for us cultivator lords. Luo Feng understood this point. Ancestors are born with life cores in their bodies, which are naturally nurtured by the infinite primordial space, allowing them to contain multiple mysteries. Containing dozens of mysteries is very common. But cultivator lords need to comprehend by themselves. To understand a primordial level Tao is already a rare achievement. Indeed. Luo Feng pondered, mysterious places can nurture some highest level powers. But no matter how special the mysterious place is, it cannot nurture a primordial level Tao. Like the mysterious place Fire Prison Wall, 12 types of the highest level flame power have been discovered. The Blood Crane territory also contains 3 types: blood power, undying power, and shadow power. Without a doubt. All mysterious places, the maximum nurtured power is the highest level. But Tao is a collection of rules. It requires one's own insight and pioneering. The endless primordial space originally did not have primordial level Tao. It was only after the pioneers developed it that Tao existed. While various powers exist innately. From this perspective, ancestors and some mysterious places are relatively compatible, as they are born with life cores. Some are even born as ancestors. Luo Feng thought, but we cultivators are not so compatible. We cultivators don't have life cores. We must start from nothing and create our own paths. But once a Tao is developed, one immediately becomes the highest level life form, immortal and undying. If one masters 2 primordial level Taos, one immediately rises to the pinnacle of the endless primordial. Luo Feng still felt that the cultivator lords were stronger. Cultivators rise from the lowest level, step by step to the pinnacle. The lowest level cultivators are insignificant in front of low-level primordial life, unable to withstand even a breath. The highest level cultivators, however, have the ability to overpower all ancestors. Even if the power of Starlight and Shoju is equivalent. Shoju is known for destruction. But Starlight excels in many areas, observing the past, present, and future. The control of time and space. Combining multiple layers, Starlight is much better than Shoju. The fact that the Mountain of Destruction can lead me inside indicates that I, a cultivator lord, am also suitable to be its master. Luo Feng stood up smiling, bypassed the sculptures, and thoroughly explored the area around the Mountain of Destruction. As long as sufficient distance is maintained from those 7 sculptures, it won't trigger combat. This Mountain of Destruction nurtures quite a lot of weapons. Luo Feng bypassed those sculptures, gradually approaching the Mountain of Destruction, and the weapons embedded on the mountain became more apparent, and the scenery on the mountain became clearer, with some twisted large trees faintly visible. Finally, Luo Feng arrived in front of the mountain body of the Mountain of Destruction. At his current level, he couldn't discern any gaps in the material of the mountain rock. Its surface bears lines containing a hint of destructive flavor, and naturally condenses some black mist. As an immortal and undying being, Luo Feng naturally dared to attempt everything. Buzz! Luo Feng extended his hand and touched the rock of the mountain of destruction. Buzz! At the instant of touch, an endless cold killing intent instantly spread throughout Luo Feng's body, rushing into his spiritual consciousness. However, Luo Feng's spiritual will was also cultivated to an extremely strong level. Even when the silent extinction ancestor and others joined forces for a soul attack, they couldn't shatter Luo Feng. At this moment, this cold killing intent brought pressure to Luo Feng's spiritual will, but he completely withstood it. At that moment, Luo Feng felt many emotions of killing, hatred, with countless slaughter scenes appearing in his mind. Those were historical scenes of slaughter, destruction that occurred in the endless primordial space, all filled with incredibly intense emotions. Love, hate, passion, enmity. Even the innate primordials are filled with intense emotions. Of course, the richest of these emotions most often come from the creatures of the source worlds. Each source world can give rise to so many lives. And most of these lives are short-lived, experiencing so many tribulations. Countless among them have endured the repeated disasters brought upon by the innate primordials. Everything I have was destroyed by these innate primordials. Kill, kill, kill. A cultivator frantically charged toward a wisp of breath descending from a world-level primordial life. For a world-level primordial life, a mere wisp of breath descending constitutes a catastrophe that countless creatures in a source world find hard to resist. Even the strongest among them amount to nothing more than playthings for the world-level primordials. To dare to raise a blade against me, you're quite brave indeed. Thereafter, the twisted figure formed by that wisp of breath devoured the cultivator. Why can't we resist? Why can we only await death? Even as the cultivator died, he was filled with unwillingness. And there were beloved friends and family embracing each other, welcoming the arrival of the catastrophe together. Indescribable love and reluctance. Really reluctant to let go. But what else can they do? At this moment, overwhelming icy killing intent and countless scenes surged into Luo Feng's memory. 3 parts were the killing intent of the innate primordials, and 7 parts were the killing intent of countless source world cultivators. These cultivators bore too much hatred, resenting the vast difference in power, resenting their own impotence. They cursed the injustice of the great Tao. I am also a cultivator. I consider myself strong enough, yet those world-level primordials approach me only to die, and most of those ancestors flee in disarray. But what can I do? Luo Feng's spiritual will can withstand the impact of the mountain of destruction's killing intent, but these intense scenes filled with hatred somewhat stimulated him. Although he had previously witnessed the miserable states of many source worlds from the non-cultivated territory, merely watching and experiencing it firsthand are worlds apart. Now feeling those overpoweringly intense emotions as though living through those scenes himself, it greatly impacted him as a lord. Luo Feng's eyes couldn't hide the killing intent. The innate primordial camp, the Ice Peak camp, including many weaker forces, as long as they are among the innate primordials of world-level primordials and some weaker ancestors, the source world origin is the best food for their life core growth. The 8 lords who aim to protect all source worlds will face far greater resistance than now. Luo Feng understood this point. At that time, not only would they be unable to protect other source worlds, but even the current 3,600 world groups might be implicated. Just like what Elder Brother said, our cultivator camp isn't strong enough. Luo Feng touched the mountain of destruction's body, the killing intent and memory scenes gradually dissipating, no longer impacting his heart. However, once a cultivator lord experiences it, he will never forget. Touching the mountain of destruction this time, personally experiencing that endless killing intent, hatred, and countless scenes, all of it Luo Feng naturally kept in his heart. This mountain of destruction? As the shock dissipated, Luo Feng touched the mountain's body and sensed new information. On this mountain of destruction, precious destruction fruits will condense. These destruction fruits can promote the growth of ancestor life cores in the destruction direction. Each time a sculpture is defeated, 1 fruit is obtained. The more sculptures defeated, the more destruction fruits gained. Destruction fruits can not only be consumed to promote life core growth but can also be used to exchange for treasures nurtured by the mountain of destruction. According to the sensed information, he was eligible to take one destruction fruit, or he could choose not to take a fruit and exchange it for a treasure. One fruit, used to exchange for a treasure, any one of them is more precious than the sky-splitting saber. All are among the finest from the vast weapons and treasures nurtured by the Mountain of Destruction, including battle armor and others. One fruit can select one item from 3,000 treasures. This battle armor closely resembles Kafou's. Luo Feng found a piece of battle armor among the sensed treasure information. Kafou should be one of the three who came to the Mountain of Destruction. He didn't consume a fruit but chose to exchange it for this battle armor. Luo Feng pondered. He doesn't have a life core. Even if he takes away a destruction fruit, it would only be sold to other strong beings. From a strength perspective, Luo Feng still planned to exchange it for a suitable treasure. No rush. The more sculptures defeated, the more destruction fruits there are, the better treasures can be exchanged for. Luo Feng could feel that the abyss of destruction was guiding, trying to cultivate a truly supreme existence in the direction of destruction. Whether it's the veins displayed by the Mountain of Destruction or the destruction fruits, all guide the growth of life cores in the direction of destruction. Based on clues, it should be me, Kafou, and Shoju who came to the Mountain of Destruction. Luo Feng speculated, which he considered most likely. Shoju only mastered 2 highest level powers, yet her destructive power far surpassed the Endless Snake Ancestor and Ice Peak Ancestor, now occupying the 27th layer of the Abyss of Destruction. Luo Feng had reason to suspect that Shoju had been here and might have even consumed a destruction fruit. Otherwise, how could her combination of 2 powers be so perfect? This Mountain of Destruction is indeed a great opportunity. But the help it offers is even greater for ancestors. For Luo Feng, 1 can comprehend the mysteries of destruction, 2 can accumulate destruction fruits to exchange for sufficiently powerful weapons and treasures. 3. These 7 sculptures also make excellent opponents. If completely defeated, there is even hope to wield this highest-level mysterious land. The first sculpture already has the strength of the top 20 of the endless primordial space. Let's see the strength of this second sculpture. Luo Feng, after touring the Mountain of Destruction and finding no other gains, actively approached the 7 sculptures in the distance again. As he got closer to the 7 sculptures, the bird sculpture still did not move, but the 9-headed giant snake sculpture of the second kind slowly awakened. As the 9-headed giant snake awakened, its body rapidly enlarged, and in barely a moment, its massive form extended over the entire land where the Mountain of Destruction resided, its serpentine body coiling over the ground more than a full circle, 9 heads staring at Luo Feng. The sheer formless dominance surpassed the infinite snake ancestor. Luo Feng frowned slightly. The second sculpture is already this strong? Did Kafou only defeat 1 sculpture? At this moment, Luo Feng realized the 7 trials were much harder than he had previously anticipated. The 9-headed giant snake, coiling around the entire expanse of the Mountain of Destruction, observed Luo Feng. What a gigantic form! Luo Feng was secretly amazed. Size isn't always better. The infinite snake ancestor can enlarge its body to rival a world cluster, but it doesn't have destructive power at that size. Energy reserves are finite. Every lord or ancestor has an optimal size for combat. Deliberately enlarging can actually make them weaker. Its energy reserve is much stronger than the infinite snake ancestor. Luo Feng could sense it. Boom! Without any warning, it was as if the whole world collided with Luo Feng, the terrifying momentum causing him to suddenly fly backward, plowing long furrows in the ground. Luo Feng's protective energy layer vibrated and distorted, and his blood-red robe showed some cracks. Such power! This is the most powerful opponent I've encountered so far. Luo Feng was startled, realizing he was struck by the serpent's body. Boom! Unable to perceive it, unable to resist it, Luo Feng was hit again. The serpent's tail whipped onto Luo Feng, with a force equal to 20 or 30 ordinary ancestors' combined strike, sending Luo Feng flying. Boom! 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 On the vast lands at the foot of the Mountain of Destruction, the 9-headed serpent, though huge, kept hitting Luo Feng repeatedly. He had no time to defend, no time to dodge. Yet Luo Feng's defenses were strong. The terrifying force of the serpent was weakened after passing through the protective energy layer and the blood-red robe, unable to harm Luo Feng. Interesting. Luo Feng allowed himself to be hit, remaining unhurried. With his current strength, finding a close match in the entire endless primordial space was incredibly rare. Especially with the 7 sculptures, once he defeated one, the next challenge would be even stronger. Thus, Luo Feng cherished this 9-headed serpent as an opponent. He wasn't in a rush. He would rather spend more time understanding this 9-headed serpent thoroughly before defeating it with full strength. Huff. After withstanding hundreds of strikes, Luo Feng was still unscathed. Suddenly, Luo Feng felt the surrounding space change, and he found himself inside the body of the 9-headed serpent. The body began to shrink, time and space began collapsing, trying to crush Luo Feng. This 9-headed serpent's methods are very similar to those of the infinite Great Snake clan. Luo Feng pondered, it's practically the perfect form of the infinite Great Snake clan. During the war between the two great camps, Luo Feng had seen multiple ancestor-level infinite great snakes, and he was also very familiar with the largest clan of the innate primordial camp. According to intelligence, the infinite great snake clan's strength lies in their ability to merge with each other. For instance, 3 world-level primordial perfect infinite great snakes can merge into a 3-headed giant snake. At higher primordial levels, due to the vast numbers, there were instances where 9 infinite great snakes merged into a 9-headed giant snake, which is the clan's fusion limit. What stands before me is a 9-headed giant snake. Moreover, its body's secret patterns are more perfect than those of ancestor-level infinite great snakes. Its aura is even stronger than the infinite snake ancestor. It's a more perfect version of the infinite great snake than the infinite snake ancestor. Luo Feng surmised. Each of the 7 sculptures in the Mountain of Destruction has its origin. Luo Feng thought, does each sculpture have a prototype? The 3rd sculpture is similar to the Hermit. The 4th sculpture is a massive cube formed by 125 smaller cubes, bearing great similarity to the Demon Ruins. The 5th sculpture is a black star. Some ancestors have a star shape, and even some mysterious places have a star shape. Especially the 7th sculpture, it's always changing. Luo Feng thought, the 7th sculpture harbors all who control the destruction world, apart from the challenger, like the infinite ancestor at the deeper level of Kafue. It's known that the infinite ancestor surpassing Kafue is a recent event. Undoubtedly, the 7th sculpture changes according to external circumstances. The Mountain of Destruction absorbs the killing intent, hatred, and intense emotions within the endless primordial space. Luo Feng had previously touched the Mountain of Destruction's surface and had been greatly impacted. The Abyss of Destruction, this mysterious land, made Luo Feng increasingly curious. Crack, crack, crack tilde tilde tilde. The 9-headed serpent used its body as a cage, like a world of cages, to bind and crush Luo Feng. However, Luo Feng's strong physical body withstood all crushing attempts. Its force is strong, but it seems somewhat clumsy. Luo Feng noticed this. Whether the 1st or the 2nd sculpture, their power is terrifying. But in terms of combat techniques, they seem rather clumsy and direct. No need to continue. Luo Feng realized that the 9-headed giant snake's clumsy techniques no longer warranted him holding back. Instantly drawing his blade, an incomparably dazzling blade light sliced through, cutting through all obstacles, splitting the world in 2. Naturally, it also severed part of the serpent's body. Slash! Luo Feng stood his ground, showing no mercy. Beam after beam of blade light emerged, each blade light possessing the terrifying power of all things can be cut, slicing the enormous, twisting body into dozens of pieces. However, the dozens of snake parts quickly remerged, with minimal energy loss. The 9-headed giant snake instantly vanished, hiding deep within the void. 10 directions extinction. Luo Feng sheathed his blade, then stretched out both hands. Within him, 10 billion and 80 million origins burned through 5% of the energy reserve in an instant, releasing an endless surge of explosive energy. Under Luo Feng's spiritual will, these energies transformed into 10 incredibly fierce blade lights, each following through the 10 fingers of Luo Feng. The 10 blade lights crisscrossed the endless void, forming a 10 directions blade array, completely sealing off everything within the area where the mountain of destruction was located. The surrounding world, all within the range of the 10 directions blade array. All things can be cut. Extinguish all. This is Luo Feng's insight into the 34 mysterious forces of destruction within the mountain of destruction, perceiving how these destructive forces intertwine, further advancing his 5 directions blade array to the perfected 10 directions blade array. Allowing 5% of the energy reserve to be sustained within the 10 directions blade array, Luo Feng's current control over energy surpassed his strength when he first became a lord. Back then, he could only cause explosive origin great destruction, but now he perfectly controlled and condensed power into blade light without any dispersal. Buzz. Under the slaughter of the 10 directions blade array, a dense black mist circulated on the surface of the mountain of destruction, resisting all slaughter. Even the 6 sculptures remained unmoved, unharmed under the blade array. Only the 9-headed serpent could not hide, even the void was annihilated, and its massive winding body could not resist the terrifying blade light, shattering into thousands of pieces. Although it continuously reformed as one, the continuous grinding of the blade array finally reached its core. Hua! The 9-headed giant snake instantly dissipated, reforming into a sculpture at its original position. Luo Feng stretched out his hand, and the vast blade light constituting the 10 directions blade array flew back into his body. The energy consumption of the 10 directions blade array was not great, and about 80 to 90% of the energy returned. Finally defeated the second sculpture. Luo Feng looked at the sculpture of the 9-headed giant snake and secretly sighed. Once he unleashed his power, he managed to forcibly defeat this 9-headed giant snake head-on. But Luo Feng clearly understood. Even if Starlight took action, it might not necessarily shred this 9-headed giant snake. Although the 9-headed giant snake is foolish, its power is immense, comparable to the combined force of 20 or 30 ancestors. Its body is extremely resilient. Aside from me, perhaps only Shoju could tear its body apart, Luo Feng thought. Just the second sculpture was already so formidable. It forced me to give my all. Luo Feng looked toward the third sculpture, which resembled the hermit figure, and immediately walked over. As he approached a certain range, the third sculpture, the fox sculpture, began to flow slowly from its previous solidified state, and eyes formed on the surface of this fog to observe Luo Feng. It glanced at Luo Feng. Luo Feng then realized the world had changed. Surrounded by white mist, the mist flowed around and over Luo Feng's body. Luo Feng's expression changed slightly as he realized every movement was incredibly strenuous, even walking was extremely hard. Fog domain? And it's stronger than the domain of the primordial beast ancestor? Luo Feng was shocked. The primordial beast ancestor was the strongest ancestor within the domain of the endless primordial space, yet the domain suppression of the white mist formed by the third sculpture was even stronger. Every move Luo Feng made was immensely difficult. Cut. Luo Feng couldn't wield his blade, so the 10,800,000,000 origins within him burned, sending dazzling blade light flying from his body. These blade lights barely traveled a short distance through the fog before being completely worn down. The energy from the worn-down blade light was absorbed by the white mist, which remained vast, and its energy did not weaken in the slightest. Boom tilde 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 tilde. Under the cover of the white mist, Luo Feng attacked repeatedly, even using some newly devised techniques. But the white mist was incredibly resilient, easily wearing down Luo Feng's blade light. Even within this fog domain, the 10 directions blade array could not be set up. The blade light would be eroded in a short time. Can't even fight. Luo Feng felt helpless. He considered his techniques to be extremely powerful, but they simply couldn't dent the white mist, and this was only the third sculpture. Hua 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 tilde 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 tilde. The endless mist suddenly began to contract. Luo Feng could see with the naked eye that the mist's density quickly increased, and its constraint and suppression on him surged. What? Luo Feng was surprised. Earlier he could at least move and wield his blade. But gradually, Luo Feng found moving difficult and was unable to wield the blade. Tilde. The increasingly dense white mist wrapped around Luo Feng like liquid. Its scope grew smaller and the constraint and pressure intensified. Luo Feng was unable to move. The white mist had shrunk into a stream, twisting around and strangling Luo Feng. Can't move at all. Luo Feng felt the restraint power was terrifying. Weaker bodies would be shredded to pieces, but his own body was inherently resilient, and along with the shadow power and undying power from the blood crane territory, he was barely resisting the terrible erosion and strangulation. No other techniques available. Completely restrained and unable to move, Luo Feng was left with no choice. He didn't expect that just the third sculpture would force him into this predicament, unable to use any blade techniques against this hermit sculpture. With a thought, Luo Feng's physical body transformed into energy, merging with the 10,800,000,000 origins, which shone like a cluster of brilliant stars, forming a formation. With mastery of the highest level of power of breaking and increased accumulation in the destruction path, the current origin Great Destruction formation was naturally optimized, and its self-detonating prowess improved by roughly 20% compared to during the camp wars. Boom! The formation formed by the 10,800,000,000 origins instantly transformed into energy that annihilated everything. When pure energy breaches a certain limit, it creates a special reaction, causing all spacetime to obliterate, and all matter to extinguish. The energy from this obliteration merges with the self-detonating energy, making the impact more terrifying. Instinctively, the eyes of the white mist stream that restrained Luo Feng showed a trace of astonishment. Bang! Too close. It completely restrained Luo Feng, being intimately close. To pursue power, it kept shrinking. This resulted in it bearing the most terrifying impact at the closest proximity. Despite its resilience, it was torn apart, its energy core was struck, and at the moment of impact, this white mist stream naturally annihilated. Boom! The aftermath of the explosion swept across the land of the Mountain of Destruction. The energy post-explosion, guided by an invisible will, gathered back, coalescing into the image of Luo Feng in black robes. Leveraging the connection with the mysterious land's blood crane territory, new blood crane territory energy continuously transmitted over, forming new scarlet robes on his body. Did I win? Luo Feng looked at the distant third sculpture forming, a bit stunned. Winning against the third sculpture, he felt it was somewhat unfair. This episode is end here.